Welcome back to some new petty revenge stories, where people have small victories over those that wronged them. I hope you had a great day. The first story is called Keeping Him Awake. A few years ago, we had a couple buy the house 2 up from us on our street. They did renovations for the first couple of months, 7 days a week, from 6 AM. As annoying as it is being woken up on Sunday mornings by a power saw, my fiance and I know that if you live near people, you're gonna hear noise, so we just rolled with it. Everything changed after the renovations were finished. The guy went back to work on the night shift. All of a sudden, our street had to be silent during the day so he could sleep. This self-entitled guy went to great lengths to get his beauty sleep. He called the police for noise complaints any chance he got. My hippie neighbors who had their weekly afternoon jam sessions with acoustic guitars, my Vietnamese neighbors and their god-awful Thursday afternoon karaoke, and then it was my turn. Complaint after complaint went into the council about noise from my dogs and chickens. He would walk to my front fence, wait for my dog to bark at him, then record it and send it to the council. Then he discovered that my dog was controlled, i.e. not allowed out of my yard without a leash. One day I left the gate open to bring the shopping in. This guy filmed my dog walking 3 meters out of my yard to the car, sent it to the council, and I received an $800 fine in the mail. That was the last straw. Since I'm a builder, I have access to lots of noisy stuff. Grinders, chainsaws, metal cut-off saws, you name it. Since I own my own company, it's not always necessary for me to be on site. I waited for him to get home, gave him an hour to get comfortable, then began cutting rebar with a 2-stroke cut-off saw in my front yard in small sections. It took all of 15 minutes before he burst out of his house with his cranky pants on. I couldn't keep a straight face as I told him I was quite within my rights to do work around the house during the day, just as he had. Then I told him I'd had weeks of work to do, so I'd better get back to it. The look on his face brought me the purest joy I've ever felt. I'd give him 30 minutes to settle in, then start cutting again for 10 to 15 minutes. Chainsaws, power saws, it didn't matter what I cut because it was all going in the bin anyway. It was only a couple of weeks before I got bored and ran out of stuff to cut. But during that time I took every single opportunity I could to drive him to insanity. The next story is called Dirt Revenge. I work at Lowe's, and even though the signs say no pets, people bring in their dogs and no one says anything. One day, a woman and her teenage son came in with a little dog, and the dog took a dump in the aisle. When the kid pointed it out to his mom, she told him not to worry, because the store employees are paid to clean it up. I came back a couple of minutes later with the cleanup equipment, and a customer told me he would take care of it. I assumed it was her husband at first. But he told me he was her neighbor and that he's been cleaning up after that rodent in his yard for years. About half an hour later, after checking out, the woman came back into the store, screaming. Someone had smeared what her dog left all over her windshield and front side windows. She demanded that management finds the employee responsible by watching the video recording and make him or her clean her car. I told the store manager what had happened, and he went back to the woman and told her that the parking lot camera had been damaged by weather, and she was on her own. He did offer to let her use the cleanup equipment that I had returned to the janitor's closet. Later, he and I, on the PC in his office, watched the neighbor rock out to her car wearing rubber gloves and carrying a paper towel bundle, laughing hard as he covered the car. The third story is called Paying My Dues. My boss was your typical jerk guy, plus one step further. He used to make me work 13-hour shifts without overtime because I was paying my dues. The worst part was his screaming and throwing things at me. I've had keyboards, mouses, wires and empty water bottles hurled at me. All upper management had to say was that this, construction, is a tough field and I have to have thick skin to survive and be successful. I've cried multiple times in my 2 years at this job because it was so horrible. For some additional context, my partner volunteers like crazy and receives free tickets to shows and concerts. For the 2 years I have worked there, my boss has timely asked for 2 tickets to be arranged for him and his wife. Before I was leaving, my boss told me to arrange similar tickets for an upcoming show. I told him that my partner could get them only for the venue in another city, so he'd have to travel. He was fine with it, because it was one of the classical things he loves. A few weeks later, I sent him the ticket. but I edited the QR code and the ticket number just enough to make it invalid. The ticket also did not have his name on file, had my partner's, so I hoped they wouldn't be able to pull up the right ticket. I was also pretty sure that he didn't know my partner's full name to have the tickets pulled up. The weekend of the show, I saw on his Instagram stories that he flew to the other city. I got a bunch of calls from him that evening, presumably because the tickets were showing up as invalid, but I sat and watched TV and let my phone ring. The next story is called IT Revenge. The neighbor's son, Garth, graduated college about this time last year and got his first full-time career job at a company. He's in the IT department of a branch office and does IT things. The total number of employees at this office is around 20. Some are in sales and some work in the office. Karen is the office manager. When Garth first started, there were 3 IT people. They had an office in the basement away from the rest of the employees. This suited Garth just fine. He's a quite introverted young man. Highly intelligent, but he's not a social person. Would rather spend his time off gaming than live interaction. As you can imagine, he's not a big kid. The 2 other IT people eventually move on to other jobs and corporate doesn't replace them. Now Garth has 3 times the work without receiving a raise. Garth voices his concerns to Karen about workload and call-outs, and he gets the standard feeble corporate responses and condescending lecture. I don't know why he didn't quit then, but he stuck it out hoping to eventually be recognized for his worth, etc. Whenever I spoke with him, he'd say how bad it was working for Karen. But his saving grace was he was in his solitary office most of the day and did not have much contact with her. Until one day, back in February, he got a phone call from Karen telling him to come upstairs. Upon arriving, he's directed to start moving furniture around. Garth takes a look around and tells Karen his job does not call for moving heavy objects. Karen gets loud and calls his manhood into question in front of everyone, but Garth does not budge. Life changed for Garth after that. Karen had decided to make work miserable for him. She started repeatedly writing him up for whatever she could think up. Here comes the petty revenge. Garth starts snooping and discovers that Karen is having an affair with a married coworker. Their work phones are synced up to the computer system, which Garth has access to. Garth has created a mass corporate email with various screenshots of the inappropriate texts. He rigged it to be sent out today, from her own email account. The beauty of it all? Garth rocked in Friday and tendered his resignation to corporate HR. He left his ID card and whatever else on Karen's desk. Karen made a big deal of shouting at Garth as he was leaving. When the email is sent out, they may well suspect that Garth was the perpetrator, but they'll never be able to prove it. The last story is called Random Email Address. My Gmail address is short and sweet, easy to remember, with no numbers or anything like that. Just my first and last names. The problem is that it seems that people with a name similar to mine use it as one of those throwaway addresses you give when you are filling out some stuff for a random company. This means I get a lot of spam. I get it from all over the Americas. My surname sounds Hispanic and it gets very tiresome. I sometimes get an honest mistake, like an email from a school in Texas or something, and I write back telling them that it's not the correct address and I get thanks back. I'm not a complete monster. But every now and then, these guys overstep the mark. They use this email address, which, remember, they have no access to sign up for stuff you really might not want other people to be able to mess around with. Some random guy in California used a dating site using my email. I used the lost password feature to go onto his account, write some bad stuff to the ladies, then delete the account altogether. I got an email from a Brazilian car dealer, asking if I wanted a full service package with some extras. To which I said yes, absolutely. Order all the necessary parts and materials. Strangely, I never heard from them again. My favorite was a rental car reservation someone used my email for. I got access to a reserved area and added some extra insurance and a couple of extra days to his rental period. I have some schadenfreude when I think of him wanting to leave with the car, but having to go through the trouble of having to cancel my add-ons. There's a moral here. Don't use random email addresses for stuff. Thanks for watching the video to the end. I hope you enjoyed it. Please don't forget to leave a like, comment and subscribe. And if you have time, watch another one of my videos. And now, I hope you have a great day. See you soon. Bye bye.